All right, time again. Talk about the latest things in AI. Boy, we got mistakes, we got lessons, we got incredible features and functionality. It's been a really exciting week. I know not everybody has a chance to attend these big conferences, and that's true for me as well. But with the power of AI, we can learn what's been released. Not only can we keep up with what's going on out there, but we can use these tools to our advantage. So, on the program, we're going to talk about Google Cloud Next and what's been announced. What is happening in the world of Google as it relates to AI? What's maybe not front and center in the announcements? And maybe there's some mistakes we can talk about along the way. I think it's been a delightful week, and I'm really excited by all of the incredible things that are happening in the world of AI. And I really want to share it with you. So let's get started. There's a lot of great things for us to talk about. Amongst all of the cloud important announcements, there's been a couple of big things that happened this week. And the first is I'm really excited models. Really, really excited about some of these models that have come out by Google. Now, when you look at some of these capabilities, let's just run down what they announced and how you can get to each of these models. So the first on my list for this week is IMAGEN 3. And this is an image to text model that is providing improved capabilities in terms of lighting and reduction of artifacts. They're giving you a lot more control with prompt adherence. And listen, we've talked about all of the image generation capabilities. And last week, we even spent quite a bit of time talking about the latest addition to the family that I've really enjoyed using Midjourney with the voiceover, sort of a vibe image coding, if you will. But this IMAGEN 3 is really making an impact because it's improving in ways that some of the other models are not. Now, when you compare that to the latest and greatest GPT-4o image generation, I think the OpenAI model has the edge on text and the adherence to the text, making that appear. But don't discount IMAGEN 3. This is so much better. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, but they're making it more accessible. And the work that they've done with IMAGEN 3 also plays out with the enhanced capabilities of video generation in VO2. And, you know, if we talk about the advancements that have been made here, I think Google is actually kind of putting to shame some of the work that OpenAI has done with Sora. If you look at the quality of video that is coming out, I think there is something to be said for Google's effort in bringing all of these pieces together. They really have done some fantastic work with VO2. And I think that this is not the last that we're going to see in terms of what this model is capable of. But totally new to me that I haven't even had a chance to play with is their announcement of Chirp 3, which is an audio generation model. And essentially, what it's allowing us to do is to generate a custom voice with only 10 seconds of audio. Now, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I think it kind of depends on your perspective. And I'm sure that if you know the person, it's not going to be perfect enough for you to consider to be indistinguishable. But I think that the days of the voice print are kind of at an end. Now, the other thing that this is going to let us do is really enhance customer service capabilities and phone systems. I'm hopeful that this means that the days of the old integrated voice response system are quickly coming to an end, where we can actually connect to these large language models to get our work done over the phone using the most advanced technology instead of the our voice options have changed, listen to all the options, only to discover that none of the options are the one that you called about. The last option here, Google's text to music. This is totally new, and it's been added to Vertex AI. This is really interesting because it's generating 30-second clips from text prompts. Now, enterprise ready, I don't know. What is an enterprise going to do with 30-second clips of audio? I'm not entirely sure, but let's just pop open the browser here and talk about some of these developments. I think it's important for us to take a look at the announcement, and we'll just zoom in here a little bit and talk through what they've shared. They're talking up the various capabilities. But before we get very far with any of these, I just have to point out what's going on here. Image Gen 3 is the only announcement that is openly accessible. Unfortunately, Chirp 3 is under preview. VO2 is under preview. Lyria is under preview. So unless you sign up and they pick you, you're not going to get access to these models. Though with the allow list and with the sign up, you could absolutely get access to one of these. I wouldn't discount that it's possible for you to get picked up with one of these. But also, with all of these great announcements, the disappointment is, hey, we're announcing this, but you don't actually get to play with it yet. So I am a little bit disappointed with that, but still, the fact that they're able to announce these and talk about them in detail does show that they are making progress. This announcement of Lyria, I think, is interesting. Let's take a look at the video clip. Now, I don't know. Enterprise ready. It still strikes me as a little bit odd. I mean, what are you going to do with the 30-second audio clip? I mean, is that just going to make our hold music better? Does anybody even use hold music anymore? I don't know. I'm not really sure what you can do with that. I did get a chance to watch a good portion of the developer keynote at Google Cloud Next, and they were really vibing out to the tunes, generating some fun things as background music. So it does have some applicability, but this is one of those things where I'm just not really sure what the value proposition is of the model. I think it really is more of an experiment than anything. Yeah, let's keep on moving here. I think, what's cool about the way that they're announcing this feature set of VO2 is they're finding new ways to apply the AI. Visual special effects is one of those things that has taken a great deal of effort to get the work done, and actually being able to take a well done, well shot movie scene and actually do editing with that, I think that has some real applicability. So it's more than just simply generating the video. It is actually this idea of cleaning up or providing professional edits without the need to have a retouching, a digital artist actually go through and manipulate that imagery. I think that is a pretty big deal. And then if you extend it with this concept of outpainting, where you're able to take a scene and actually extend it or change the format of the screen view, I think that's really interesting. And listen, as I'm doing video production myself, I think this is kind of an interesting scenario. I could see maybe in the future where, as I'm formatting all of the media that I'm creating, maybe I use some outpainting to fill in the edges around the screen of what it is that I'm talking about. So these different screen formats and the extending the frame capability, I think, is really interesting. Now, this cinematic effect, I think, is really interesting because this adds another dimension. Being able to take a shot and go through the viewer, and it's able to follow the person around the screen in different ways. by panning it, and the AI generation is actually allowing that. I think that's another really interesting use case. But probably my absolute favorite is this interpolation. Being able to take one frame and an end frame and have all of those inner frames interpolated, I think is really interesting. It's coming out with some great results here. And of course, we've had software that helps us do morphing and changing of images for a long time. But, all the 20 years ago, you had to buy very specialized software to handle these kinds of situations. And now we're able to do it with the large language model. That's really exciting to me. Now, the Chirp 3, they again, just they don't have a really great example of this to share with us, but they are announcing it. So we'll just have to hold our breath for that. The image quality for Image Gen 3, here's another good example of that. If you haven't seen it, they're taking the prompt and they're having it generate the image. We've known about this for quite a long time, but the quality of these is really fantastic. And I think the advancements that Google is making here across all of these different media types is really significant. And we're entering a time where you will be able to imagine what it is that you want, and you'll be able to do that storytelling with incredible ease. And so, one of the things that I think we really need to work on going forward is coming up with better ways to consider how we might imagine the world around us, how we might take what we're learning and turn it into something that we can share with others. There's a whole lot of opportunity here. And then, of course, they want to talk up their safety and security features like the digital watermarking. I think this is a reality of where we need to go. There is a lot of generation capability that is having a wider effect on what we can do. In fact, in the headlines this week is there's actually a lot of fraud happening in the job application space where people are interviewing and using AI to facilitate applying to jobs and showing themselves as a person different than who has applied. So there are definitely some areas where we need to think about safety and security. And listen, I'm an enterprise guy. I deal with these kinds of situations and have been dealing with them for the better part of my career. And it is not to be understated. These enterprise issues are various and many. And they really do prevent these large organizations from adopting the capabilities. And it makes it more of a challenge. For those of us that are independent, maybe you're a small independent employee or developer or contractor, a lot of those kind of details go away for you because you don't have to apply it at scale. But these are real issues that have to be dealt with. So don't discount that those things really do have to be considered. All right, now let's keep on going here with the conversation. I think there's a lot more that we can dive into. Let's jump back into the presentation and talk a little bit more about what else Google has been working on. And the next one I have for you is Gemini 2.5 Flash was announced this week at Google Cloud Next. But we're going to have to hold our breath because look at that, coming soon to Vertex AI, AI Studio, and the Gemini app. And look, here's the practical reality. Google is really fighting to bring up and be completely relevant to all of the new things that are coming out. I think it's appropriate for them to be putting the word out there so that they can get some attention in the marketplace. And you really can't argue with the fact that they are making these models accessible. Gemini 2.5 Pro is freely accessible. That used to be a capability that you had to pay for, and they're making it totally free. Also, I've talked previously on the channel about leveraging AI Studio. I didn't cover Vertex AI. That is sort of the enterprise version of that. It's the Google Cloud interface for all of the AI capabilities. And of course, all of these models that we've been talking about are going to be available on Vertex AI. So they are taking a very enterprise focused approach to all of the announcements that they've made at Google Cloud Next. And then they're going to bring it to the Gemini app as well. And if you weren't already aware, They are shifting all of those AI capabilities on the mobile platforms to the Gemini app, so they have a dedicated space and they can compare their app to the likes of Anthropic Claude, Microsoft Copilot, and of course, OpenAI. So big changes coming soon. How soon? It's hard to tell, but look, if past track record is any indication, when 1.5 Flash came out, it was equivalent to a lot of much more expensive models, and it was not only faster, but dramatically cheaper, pennies to dollars when you compare it to the likes of Anthropic Claude and OpenAI's most effective models like GPT-4o. Even against those more optimized models like GPT-4o, the latest Gemini was really doing very well. So I think when this hits, when they actually release Flash 2.5, it's going to be exciting, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity from an agentic standpoint. What we can do with this tech is really great. So I am legitimately excited about this, but a little disappointed that all we got was coming soon. All right. Next, we got to talk about agents. Everybody and their brother is releasing an agent ecosystem. And yes, even the company that I work for, talking about agents every single day, has done a lot of hard work to build not just the capability of agents, but the platform that you can put it on. And I think it is important to understand how much of the Google development atmosphere was really based around having this agent discussion. They have released the Agent Development Kit, which provides you with tooling necessary to build out each of these things. They have also released an agent to agent protocol. So we're entering the age of not just agentic AI, but agent to agent, where you will be able to simplify and put together systems where multiple agents are working together in multiple different places to make things happen. And I think this is where things get to be really interesting. I could see where this could go horribly wrong. I still want to continue to bring up the idea that it was illustrated so well in the Disney film Fantasia. Mickey Mouse becomes the sorcerer's apprentice. He gets the hat, and chaos ensues. I absolutely think that is a possibility if we are cavalier with how we build these systems. So being able to build and manage these systems is very important, and I think that Google recognizes exactly that problem, hence the 3 bullets along the bottom: the agent garden, the Vertex AI agent engine, and the agent space are all really built and set up for you to do development, debugging, testing, integration of the AI agents. It has to be a developer story because that is ultimately who is going to be building these agents. Even if you can build an entire agent in 10 lines of code, and they did in fact demonstrate that, there is a significant learning curve to these technologies and how they can be integrated. Also, the real challenge with these development kits is you have to have somebody intelligent really thinking about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So let's talk a little bit about how these things fit together, right? The ADK provides that foundation for building the intelligent agents. The garden is giving you the resources so that you can develop things more quickly, giving you some pre-built solutions. Then you've got the agent to agent protocol, which is letting you connect to different frameworks. And I think it's very important here, the way that this is described. It is interoperability between diverse agent frameworks. It's not just single agents, it's entire agent frameworks, because there has already been a significant growth of agent frameworks. And I don't think that we are anywhere close to being done with that. Now, from an AI agent engine standpoint, now we're talking about deployments and management of agents. You're going to have to control all of the chaos, and that means choosing how you deploy it and how you manage it, especially in production environments. Because if you're not using this in production, it's really all kind of pointless. If you're not deploying it and using it at scale, it has limited utility, and we have to get to that point. So And the fact that they've couched it inside of Vertex AI shows you that, again, they are very focused on that enterprise class of customer. Now, for the agent space, there's that word again, enterprise. It's an enterprise-facing interface where these agents can be used to enhance productivity. What does that mean? It means they are providing a more consumer-friendly way for you to interact and consume the agents. Because the reality is the direct interface that is a chat or some of the existing interfaces that we have today just aren't good enough. And I think this is something that's important to acknowledge. Google is really figuring out that it's not enough just to have the capability. It has to be in a good experience. And then I have a little note here at the bottom. I was pretty surprised by this announcement. The fact that Google has adopted MCP, that is the open protocol that was introduced by Anthropic last year. MCP has been growing in popularity and support. I think there are definitely some interesting things about integrating it. And I think the challenge is going to be pretty substantial as we go forward. It's not just whether or not you can, it's going to become should you, and how exactly should that be implemented? It's not clear to me yet on where we are from a security aspect. What I've read seems to indicate that there may be some security challenges. There may be some ways that you can surreptitiously swap what an MCP server might be calling. So I think there's still some maturity necessary. But the fact that Google has said, hey, we're going to support MCP, I think that is a pretty substantial announcement and kind of a big deal. All right. Now, we've been talking about the models that Google has been releasing, and they covered a ton of announcements. But I got to tell you, I got really excited about what I saw in the announcements this week with this geospatial reasoning. What do I mean by that? Well, gosh, it was many years ago now, and I probably should have looked it up because I knew I was going to talk about this. But many years ago, back when I was in high school, we had this software called Keyhole, and it lets you look at the Earth. It actually collected all of the satellite imagery of the whole world, and with really powerful software, you could actually look and see archived images from anywhere in the world. And this became the foundation of Google Maps. And eventually Google bought the Keyhole software capability, and it became Google Earth. And I was using it before Google bought it. The Google purchase was actually pretty exciting. But what I love about what Google is doing here is that they are leveraging all of the work that they have done in the space with capabilities like Google Maps and Street View and Google Earth. And they are making it way easier to integrate these capabilities. Let me show you what I mean. And if we just jump into the video here, I think you'll get a better idea of what this looks like. It is really fascinating, and I think this is super exciting.
From maps and trends to weather, floods, and wildfires, Google has studied the geospatial world for decades, and we've made that information accessible through AI models and real-time services. But synthesizing across these models and combining your data with ours can be challenging and expensive. That's why we're introducing geospatial reasoning. You can now bring your data and models together with Google's geospatial tools for easier analysis using Gemini's reasoning ability. Gemini plans and enacts a custom program, searching over data and gathering inferences from multiple models to unlock powerful insights, all through a simple conversational interface. Geospatial reasoning can be a critical tool for advancing public health. Climate resilience. Commercial applications. And more. Let's think bigger, together with geospatial reasoning.
I mean, I got to tell you that the thing that I'm absolutely most excited about is being able to have a chat interface
all through a
on top.
simple conversational interface.
I mean, just look at this. They've got an overlay here where they've taken and entered a zip code, and it's overlaying that information on the screen in a useful way and combining it with additional information. This is the kind of thing that I think is really underappreciated in terms of a research and development standpoint. And if you think about what could be done, they're showing just a few quick examples of what's possible here. And of course, so much of the data and research that goes on in terms of our human behaviors is based on what you can observe in maps. But being able to overlay things, whether it's weather or conditions, there are all sorts of opportunities in the space for what you can do with maps and overlays. So I think this is a really, really exciting development, and I can't wait to see what we're going to do with that. And it's an exciting time for us to be talking about what's possible, and Google is pushing the envelope. I said earlier when we talked about the capabilities that Google has been working on, last year wasn't great. We had some real challenges with the image gen model. We had some, they added it to the search and it didn't go well. But I really think that Google has found their mojo and they're really firing on all cylinders. And I think that's an important thing for us to consider, that they are not down or out. They are absolutely pushing the envelope. And let me give you a good example of what I mean by that. We talked about the latest model capabilities. Here we have a GPQ-A diamond accuracy that shows a number of different things. What is covered on here is the highlights of Grok 3 and Grok 3 Mini and where they fit into the spectrum here. But did you notice who is up and to the right? Gemini 2.5 Pro. This model is absolutely incredible. And if you haven't taken a look at Gemini 2.5 Pro, I definitely think it's something you should be taking a look at. It is absolutely free. And this is a model that is worthy of attention. Take this detail and then combine it with what they announced, that they're going to come out with a 2.5 flash. I think we're going to see some really interesting things happen when that level of intelligence is available for pennies. So, really big deal in terms of what Google has accomplished. And listen, they've got the same kind of big brain folks working on things like the geospatial reasoning. So, I expect that we're going to see at least Google reach parity with some of those other models. But are they going to surpass what's available? Well, 2.5 Pro gets them ahead, and I think they have to do that to get some attention. But with what they didn't make an announcement of, I think also bears our attention today. And I'm a little doubtful of how far Google will go in terms of getting ahead of the rest. And let me tell you why. Because what we found out this week is perhaps the AI mistake that we need to talk about. The question I'm posing in today's discussion is, was the DeepMind Transformers paper an AI mistake? Now, we've talked about the Transformers paper on the program before, and I'll be sure to link that in the comments below if you haven't seen that. But it is true. The DeepMind paper is ultimately responsible for all of these generative AI model capabilities. And DeepMind Research released it. They did not hold it back. It was not kept secret. They published the paper and it changed the world. And I've seen a lot of interviews from the folks that were inside of Google. And depending on who you ask, they were holding things pretty tight to the chest. So it's all the more amazing that that Transformers paper was ever allowed to be released. But what drives my question in the discussion tonight is that what we've learned is that there are new rules at Google, particularly DeepMind, about how they release their research. Essentially, they have instituted a brand new publication embargo, which means that any of their research is going to be delayed by at least 6 months. And the approval process for publishing those articles is going to involve increased scrutiny. And really, where this leaves us is that they're going to be very much more focused on commercialization of these capabilities. I think we will definitely see some things that are only available under preview, that are only available from an enterprise context or agreement standpoint, that are hidden and behind the curtain, not available for all of us to inspect and look at. This is really disappointing. And it's not just disappointing to me, it's disappointing to the folks that are doing the work at Google DeepMind. Here's a couple of quotes. I cannot imagine us putting out the Transformers papers for general use now. So this researcher basically said, if we discovered this today, it's not going to get published. It does kind of make me wonder what it is that they are discovering today, because you know that these discoveries are coming fast and furious. I mean, there are more research papers published every day now than any human could possibly read. And from another deep research scientist, their quote was, the company has shifted to one that cares more about product and less about getting research results out for the general public good. It's not what I signed up for. And I have a great deal of respect for that scientist for, one, saying this, making a public statement, obviously anonymized, because we wouldn't want that person to be in trouble. We want to hear how they see this situation. And this isn't great. Obviously, they want to do the research and they want the world to benefit from it. You know, what we've seen already with the likes of OpenAI and actual open research and open source projects is that there is not a huge moat to keeping these things internal. And so the question I have is, I wonder how much of a difference this is really going to make for the profitability or the applicability or the productization of these AI capabilities. I think that remains to be seen, but I do think that this is an important thing for us to know about and to keep an eye on. But whether we like it or not, the stark truth is that this is just where we are. And I can't say that this is unexpected. The really unfortunate part of all of this is that it's thanks to OpenAI. I mean, they have been keeping these things inside for a long time, delaying the release, not giving us model weights, not putting things out. Now, OpenAI says they're going to change things. They've made more than one announcement about open sourcing things in the future. So if OpenAI is doing that more often, perhaps some of this decision from Google will get reverted. I don't know. I think it's a wait and see. But I also, having given DeepMind a hard time about their approach to releasing the research, I do want to give them a little bit of credit. They are at least seeming to try to understand what this AGI thing is and how we can navigate that successfully. I think there's a lot of folks that are really scared by what's happening. And one of the folks that I get a newsletter from even has a scorecard of how close we are to AGI. And it seems like every month the number moves a little bit closer. But I got to tell you, this is not a problem for me. I'm not super concerned about AGI because it is ultimately limited by what the humans can do. I think the more likely scenario is that somebody decides to pull the plug on AGI. So we need this research so that we can have the people that are full of fear feel a little bit more comfortable about how we can use these things. I definitely think that there are opportunities for bad things to happen in terms of how the technology is used, but I'm not afraid of AGI. And I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done for us to use it in a positive way. So I like this idea of building an ecosystem for readiness, right? Thinking about how we can do these things in a beneficial way to all of society. That doesn't mean slowing down. I'm not a fan of the slowing down. I definitely think that, look, somebody's going to get there first. Why not us, right? I mean, let's put it into the hands of the people that have a track record of being responsible with the technology. That is an important point to consider, and I don't want that to get left behind. So they are continuing to do good work, and I think it's valuable. But if they're not able to release a paper, what if they discover something cool with AGI? Is that going to be delayed? I don't know. That's not clear to me. We just have heard that they're going to slow things down. So this is the point in the discussion where I just want to put it all out there. Like, what does it mean? Like, where are we with all of these changes, and what can we expect for the remainder of the year? Because we're only a third of the way into the year. I mean, we're a few days into April. What's going to happen next? Now, we talked about at the beginning of the year that agents are going to be the theme, and that continues to be true. And I think we're already in the scale up phase for agents. I can tell you from my own personal experiences working with agents that there's a lot of opportunity here, both in terms of what is possible to be accomplished and all of the ways that we could possibly screw this up. If you are watching the program and you have responsibility for strategy at your organization, I want to talk to you. I want to say, look, don't enter this agent situation thinking that you're simply going to replace the people, because I got to be honest, some of this agent stuff is not as simple as all of the product folks would have you believe. The programmers oversimplify how easy it is to deploy these things because there's an awful lot that they understand that's easy to them that is not easy or simple to the average human. So there's a lot of work to be done. And while I am way into the architecture and the code, I love frameworks and tools. It's also not what it takes for the average user to get value out of them. There's a lot of work that has to go into that. And so I think we're quite a ways from this being an everyman tool. It generally takes 4 or 5 years for adoption to reach a critical tipping point. Sure, this is going to be deployed. Sure, organizations will be able to do some really amazing and cool things with agents. And candidly, I have to tell you that the things that I see, it is really astounding. It is really incredible what's already possible. And even if it is not 100% reliable, it is 100% useful just in terms of what you can do with it. It's not appropriate for it to be applied everywhere. And I think that's really where we are today, is getting your hands dirty and experimenting to see where these things fit. And then the other piece of this that has to happen from an industry standpoint is we have to move toward commercialization, because as much as we all love to play with the free AI, that is not a situation that is going to sustain in perpetuity. We have to find the commercial applicability. We have to get the funding model figured out, and it can't be 2030 when we do that. So in many ways, I really cannot blame Google for going after this. And then the last point that I really want to talk to for a few minutes is this idea of AGI sooner. Probably not. What do I mean by that? When we talk about the capabilities that are driving AGI, there are kind of three things that I want to share with you. The first is that we've just reached a point where everybody's in agreement that we finally passed the Turing test. And Alan Turing posed that question many, many years ago. It was 1961 when he posed that question, that theory, that imitation game, and what it would take for us to reach a point where the machines seem to be as intelligent as human beings. This definition of AGI is going to continue to move and change, and depending on who you ask, the model, the version, the capabilities that are necessary for it to be achieved continue to change and be highly dynamic. And then you also have the factor of widespread applicability. Have we reached AGI when it happens in one place for one time for even the shortest period or interval? I think that's a challenge to define. So my view of the world is we're going to continue to see these models accelerate in terms of what they're capable of, but I don't see the AGI happening sooner, even with all of the focus that is being placed on it. I think we have to be really careful about understanding what that means. And there are certainly places that, for regulatory compliance or otherwise just straight up paranoia, we will not be applying these capabilities. We will not allow these models to do certain things. So call me very much a skeptic in terms of AGI. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. We don't need AGI for these capabilities to be useful. I think what we're going to see in the future is these technologies are going to be applied across the board in many different ways, and they will eventually begin to disappear. And when the AI is everywhere around you and you don't know it, I think that is the point that we need to be focused on, that we need to think about. What does it mean for this to be deeply integrated into our daily experience in ways that we do not recognize or understand? Personally, I think one of those places is social media. We interact with the scroll and we just flip from one story to the next, not understanding what is actually happening in the background for that information to be brought to you. As a creator, I have to be aware of the algorithms because I want you to see the content that I am producing, but I have no control over those models. I have no control over the algorithms that they are using to decide what they're going to show on the screen. Even when it comes to your choice in pop culture things like music, so many of us are subscribed to Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music. And oftentimes there are channels behind that mix where you don't particularly want to decide what album to listen to. You let the algorithm decide. And while it does learn your preferences, that is absolutely a real thing. I don't think any of the major providers are playing fast and loose with that. They are using our preferences and the data that they have about us to train and inform what's going to be selected next. You and I have no control over what that looks like most of the time. And when we do have control, generally it's an all or none. It is pretty useful to go back, and when my kids have been watching YouTube on my subscription, I can go and delete out the things that they've been watching so that the algorithm is going to continue to serve me and not things like My Little Pony. But the reality is that those controls are not everywhere. And I think that that is going to be an issue that is far more important for us to contend with than dealing with when are we going to have AGI. So we have a lot of opportunities for improvement. And this is where I want to encourage you. If you are thinking about what's next for yourself and your career, let me just say this. I used this analogy with somebody earlier this week, and I think it was absolutely spot on. We've seen this with DevOps. DevOps is it's something that I have been an advocate for all along. Depending on who you talk to, some say that DevOps didn't work out and it turned into platform engineering. But either way you slice it, no matter how you see the current situation with DevOps, there is one thing that is for certain. A lot of folks that stopped doing that work and picked up a different job, picked up a job with a title that included DevOps. And often that meant that they were being paid more because they had a better understanding of the value and the flow that happened behind the scenes. And so, what I want to encourage you is go make some mistakes with AI. Get your hands dirty with these tools. Understand how they work because that is the future of the industry. This AI capability, particularly generative AI, is permeating everything. And even a lot of the classical AI capabilities that I was spending a lot of time on a few years ago are being usurped and taken in by the likes of these generative AI models and their ability to work against large data sets on your behalf, whether it is through an agent or through a prompting mechanism. There's a lot of opportunity here. And so take whatever it is that you already know and apply the use of AI with what you already know to make your skill set better. You're not going to regret it because this is absolutely the future. What that future looks like is in our hands. The sooner you put your hands on this technology and find ways to use it for good, the more likely it is the story's going to be better for every one of us. So don't delay. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear from you if you're enjoying the program or if you're on here and you have questions. That really is the end of the conversation for today. And I'd love to just have a chat with you here at the end of the conversation. But if not, do give me a nice subscribe if you haven't already. Drop me a comment. Let me hear from you what your thoughts are about the program, what you're interested in. And if you're finding this at all valuable, I would like to know that. And then last but not least, don't be shy. Subscribe to the channel, connect with me on LinkedIn, start up a conversation with me on X. There's all sorts of great things for us to talk about and explore together. Perhaps we have an opportunity to work together through something you're trying to learn or work on. Don't underestimate the opportunity to work with those that you see. Many of us are out there working hard each and every day to make ourselves better and to share with the community, and we want nothing more than to see your success in leveraging the things that we talk about and share on the social channels. So with that, I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time here at AI Mistakes. Go make some mistakes.